Well, it's kind of quiet this Christmas, and we don't have anywhere to go, so I'm messing with Christmas lights. Got them hooked up to the oscilloscope, and we're gonna kind of see what they do and try different things with them. And before anyone asks, yes, I did ask Doris if she needs my help with anything, and she said no. So we're down here playing instead. So what you're seeing here, these are, I don't know, something we got off Amazon. They run at 30 volts. And what you see here is it's a 30 volts positive and negative. It's alternating. And the reason for that is half the LEDs are wired in one polarity and the other half are wired in the other polarity. And what that does is it lets you control them so you can have half of them on at one time or the other half if the voltage is only positive or negative, or if you're alternating between both, then they're all on. They're actually all turning on and off at about 200 hertz. I think it was 205. So they're turning on and off at about 200 times a second. And that number is significant because the human eye, once you get like over 150, 160 hertz, it's not really perceived by the human eye or brain that they're switching on and off to where it would cause a problem. If you don't like the kind of shimmer of LED Christmas lights from the kind that just plug straight into the wall and don't have an adapter, these are much better. You won't see that shimmer. They're on you can see there's the power supply there. And then the other cool thing with these is because it has this power supply, it can do different things. So you can see we have this mode here. Push that where they're kind of flashing on and off real quick, and you can see the signal changing that they're powered from, where it's very quickly pulsing them, and then the speed changes, and you can see that signal, the pulse is increasing and decreasing at a slower rate. And now they're just switching on and off real quick, and the oscilloscope's not going to show that real well because the trigger's in the positive range, so when it goes negative, it's not doing well on either. Move that trigger up. Okay, there you can see it on the positive at least, but that doesn't matter too much. Set it back to there's where it's pulsing them in and out at a slow rate. It doesn't show up real well on the phone because the exposure is auto-compensating, but they are fading in and out right now. I'm just going to put them back like this. If we zoom in on the signal, you can see it's not real clean. Where's my trigger at? Oh, that's my position. Whoops. Reset. Move that down. Too far. Okay. If we zoom in a bit, you can see it's not real clean. You can see there where it's coming up and then it's kind of stepped. It's not like a true binary on off right there. It's a little more stepped, but as we zoom in, you'll see it's kind of a messy signal. It's the easiest thing to do would be to move the trigger up. There we go. And we'll zoom in there, and you can see once it does level out, then there's a little bit of a wave there till it settles down. So it doesn't affect the lights in any way. It's just kind of interesting. What you're seeing now is just the red and yellow LEDs are lit. And the reason is I've hooked it up directly to a DC power supply at 30 volts. So now it's not getting the alternating. My snowman got bumped. There we go. It's not getting the alternating plus and minus 30 volts. It's just getting plus 30 volts, which I'm feeding in through these wires here. So only one side's lighting up. Now if I take, let's see if I can do this with one hand. I'm going to reverse the polarity, so I'm going to hook these up the other way around. And now you see the blue and green LEDs are lighting up instead. I'm curious, these are probably wired to be very efficient, so they're not going to have a lot of tolerance for the voltage dropping. So let's see here. They're getting dimmer. Again, the auto exposure doesn't make that as obvious. Now they're pretty dim. They're hard to see. We're at about 24 volts. So yeah, it's now they're pretty much off at 23 volts. All right, now they're back on their original power supply there, so everything's lit up. But yeah, pretty neat. I don't know, to me at least, how these things work. One advantage of these two, besides the not having that shimmer and having the different effects, is because the power output's 30 volts. You can see here's the connections I made to hook up to the oscilloscope, and you can see I can touch that. 30 volts isn't going to hurt anyone. So, well, I shouldn't say that. I'm sure there's always some exception if some freak thing happens, but the point is, if a child or animal chews on these and chews through them, you don't have quite the electrocution risk you have if they're hooked up directly to the mains 120 volts here in the US. So these are a nice, safer option because they're running off this power supply. I, without opening this, don't know how well isolated it is or if it has a, how it's doing what it's doing, but it would be a safer option, at least for being around kids and animals. So yep, that's Christmas 2020, messing with Christmas lights, busting out my electrical tools. Merry Christmas.